Okay, so now let's really get into it, and we're going to be looking at how to do outlines. Right after you understand the question, you take a minute to read the question and to make sure you understand it. The next thing that you want to be able to do is to do a really good outline of the question. You want to, when I say outline, you're not outlining the introduction. I mean, you're outlining the body. All right, so you have two main steps you want to do here. You want to think of the idea that each body paragraph will be about. Those are your controlling ideas. And number two, you want to think of two details for each controlling idea. The controlling ideas are given to you for an advantage, disadvantage question, problem solution, discuss both sides in a two-part question. With those questions, you don't have to think of the controlling ideas. They're going to tell you what you should talk about for each body paragraph. It tells you from the question. And you're going to have to come up with your own controlling ideas if you have an opinion question or an agree or disagree question. So let's take a look at when we're talking about outlining. When we talk about outlining, this is our basic outline format, okay, in terms of our format for the outline. We're talking about format. We're talking about 1A, B, 2A, B. Right, that's our basic format. And for when we're talking about A, that's our controlling idea. That's controlling idea number one. And then this is specific detail number one. And then this one is B is our specific detail number two. All right, and then we have down the next thing is that's controlling idea number two. And then for controlling idea number two, we have specific detail number one. And we have specific detail number two. So when we're outlining, that's what we're talking about. Like this is body paragraph number one, and this will be body paragraph number two. Body paragraph one, body paragraph two. Okay, so when we're outlining, that's what we're outlining. That's our basic format and structure for being able to do a good outline. And so what you're going to see me do here is you're going to see me do an outline of the different types of questions, okay? I'm doing an outline on the different types of questions that you have to do. So you can see that this format and this structure that I'm giving to you is useful for any type of question. It doesn't matter what it is. Okay. So let's look at our first question here. All right, our first question here is a discuss both sides question. All right, this is the first example we're looking at. Discuss both sides and give an opinion. Okay, so we have our basic format. That's our format. All right, that's our format for doing an outline. Now let's look at the question. Question says, in some countries, governments spend a lot of money on internet infrastructure. Some say it is reasonable to allocate these funds, but others disagree and say that many more important programs need this money. All right, so discuss both views and give your opinion. So always look at what the question says. Always look at what the question says. It's not an agree or disagree question. Okay, so you can't manage it like an agree or disagree question. You have to discuss both sides, right? You have to discuss both sides. So doing an outline here is really straightforward. Okay, what is our first side that we have to do? Okay, what's the first side we have to talk about? Okay. Spending on internet infrastructure is good. All right. What's the second side? All right. There's more important programs that we need for the money. Okay. So those are controlling ideas that we have. Okay. This is our controlling idea number one. That means that this is what this body paragraph is going to be about. All right, this is our controlling idea number two. That's what this body paragraph is going to be about. Okay, now we want to think of what are going to be our specific details. Why might it be good to spend on internet infrastructure? Well, one reason might be related to business. Okay, and the second meaning might be able to handle social networks. Okay, so this would be my specific detail number one I'm going to talk about. Okay, you can't type today. What's going on with you? Your teacher's having trouble with his typing today. And this is our specific detail number two. Okay. All right, now let's go down to our next one. More important programs that are needed for the money. All right, in this paragraph, we have to talk about and discuss, well, are there other programs that are more important than internet infrastructure that need the money? One thing we can talk about is education, and we can also talk about solving poverty. Right? Those education programs, poverty programs, we could talk about are more important than infrastructure programs for the internet. Okay, so that's an outline. This is what we're going to specifically talk about and discuss in body paragraph number one. This is what we're going to specifically talk about and discuss in body paragraph number two. All right, and so doing an outline is very, very helpful to help you answer the question and finish on time. Now, for this question, because it's a discuss both views and give your opinion question, what I'm probably going to do is to probably have a third paragraph, a third shorter paragraph, where I will discuss my opinion in about 3 sentences. Now, one way that you can also do it, it would be, whichever side you agree with, whether it's spend on the internet infrastructure is good. If you like that side, then while you are discussing that side, you can discuss also within it that this is the side that you favor or support the most. Okay? So there are a couple of different ways. There are 2 different ways you can go about doing it when you're trying to express your opinion. Okay, so now let's move on and let's do another outline for a different type of question. Okay, and we're going to move down to a new page because I'm going to try to put these on different pages. All right, so this is an advantage-disadvantage question. Okay, an advantage-disadvantage question. Some people think that it is a very good idea to bring your family when you have to travel overseas to study or work. Do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? So here, we don't have to think about what our controlling ideas are going to be. We don't have to think about or try to figure that out in terms of our controlling ideas. All right? So we know that our format for outlining 1AB, 2AB. Okay? And so we know our first body paragraph is going to be about the advantages. Our second body paragraph is going to be about the disadvantages. Those are our controlling ideas. All right, so think about it. What might be some advantages to bringing your family with you when you travel overseas? What might be some advantages that you might have? Yeah, if you want to, what you can actually do is you can stop the tape, stop the lecture right now, stop the tape. It's not a tape. what is this? Stop the recording. All right, stop the recording right now and try to do your own outline, and then you can look at mine if you want to. Okay. So some advantages to bringing your family is you don't get homesick. You don't get you don't get homesick, and maybe you can give better education opportunities for your kids. All right, when you're doing an outline, you're thinking of these are the ideas I'm going to talk about. You're not writing sentences. All right, now what are some disadvantages to having your family with you? What are some disadvantages? It can be very expensive, right? And it can be distracting. Those might be some disadvantages. And we have to make sure when we are writing this essay, that we have to make sure we end up answering the question, do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? We have to answer that. So it's almost like if you have to do one more paragraph and do a small little opinion paragraph in terms of expressing, do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages here? Okay? Do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages here? So, but yes, because you have to answer the question. You have to answer the question. All right, but that's our advantage or disadvantage question. And it was the same thing in terms of our outline. All right, so now let's look at our next question here. Hold on. This is another example. And what I want you to do for this example, you see this example number 2 right here? And the question says, it has been suggested that everyone in the world wants to own a car, a TV, and a fridge. Do you think the disadvantages of such a development outweigh its advantages? Give your opinion. What I want you to do as an assignment, okay, this is an assignment. And so you should be taking notes because this is an assignment for you to do. Why don't you go ahead and try to outline this question? And I will add your outline to the list of other outlines that students have done. And you can look at commentary on the outline to make sure that your outline is done correctly. Okay? So you can take this question and do your own outline so that I can take a look and see if you're doing it correctly and how it looks. Okay? All right, so let's move on to another question. All right, now for this question, we're looking at a 2-part essay. All right? We're looking at a 2-part essay here. We're looking at a 2-part essay. All right, that's what we're looking at. All right, and I'm doing this for you in real time, and so you can see that the outlines are not something that's pre-prepared or pre-planned. I made sure that I selected questions that I have not done before. Because I wanted to show you how to really do an outline, how effective it can be in real time. All right. Now let's look at this 2-part question. Again, a 2-part question is the type of question where you don't have to think of the controlling ideas. The controlling ideas are actually given to you. Okay. Now it says, nowadays many nations are facing the problem of declining number of students attending science subjects at university. What do you think are the underlying reasons for such a trend? How can it affect these nations and why? So you see, we have 2 question marks here. We have that question mark and we have this question mark. That means we have 2 questions here. That's why we call this a 2-part question. We have 2 questions we have to answer in this essay. And so thinking of what our controlling ideas are going to be are very important. Now, before I go through this outline, let me talk about something for a minute. Some students sometimes ask me questions like, "Well, what if I don't understand the question?" That's a problem. Okay, that means you don't have vocabulary. If you don't have vocabulary and you don't understand the question, you're not going to be able to get a really good score. Right? I know people ask me that question. What if I don't have good vocabulary? What if there's nothing I can tell you except go learn some vocabulary and come back to do the exam. Okay? Because you need vocabulary to understand. And what you can't do is this. You can't look at a question like this and say, okay, I know the word science, and this question is something about science, so I'm going to write an essay talking about science. No. That's why you're going to get a bad grade. Okay? You can't just write about what the question is generally about. You have to answer the specific question. Okay? The specific question here you must answer. All right, and here we go again with our outline. All right, here we go again with our outline. So it says, nowadays, many nations are facing the problem of declining number of students attending science subjects at university. What do you think are the underlying reasons for such a trend? How can it affect these nations and why? Right, so one question we have to answer is, what are the reasons for less science students? That's what the first question. What are the underlying reasons for this trend? Right? What are the reasons for less students at university? Less science students. Second question is, how affect these nations? How and why it affects these nations. Okay? So those are our controlling ideas. That's our controlling idea. This is our controlling idea for the first paragraph, and we have our controlling idea for the next paragraph. All right, so what are some reasons? What are some reasons that you might have less students studying science or subjects at university? Why might that be? Some reasons. Okay, one reason might be they didn't learn these subjects well in high school. That might be a reason why. Another reason why some of them might believe that it's too difficult. Those may be the reasons why they believe that might be some. Those might be some reasons why there's a declining number of students attending science subjects at university. Right now, second thing, how can it affect these nations? Well, they might have less new inventions and products. All right, because they're not in science, or they're not going to be creating things, and they may have to import foreigners who specialize in science, right? They may have to bring over people from other countries that specialize in science. You see that now in the United States, right? The United States is bringing in people from all different parts of the world that are specializing in science, because we have a declining number of people that are taking science here in the United States. That's happening here. Okay, so that is the outline for this one. This is what I'm going to talk about in my body paragraph number 1. This is what I'm going to talk about in my body paragraph number 2. Okay, now we're going to stop this lecture here, and then we're going to have another lecture where we continue explaining to you how to do the body paragraphs. Okay? Okay, so let's keep pressing forward with our outlining. Let's keep pressing forward with our outlining, And when we are talking about outlining, we're next moving on to the agree or disagree question. All right, now the agree or disagree question is where you have to actually come up with your own controlling ideas. They're not going to tell you this is what you should talk about in paragraph number 1, and this is what you're going to talk about in paragraph number 2. For an agree or disagree question, also you have to take, I believe that you should take a side, right? It says agree or disagree, right? It doesn't say agree and or disagree. There's a difference. It says agree or disagree. So take a position, take a side, choose agree or choose disagree, and strongly support that. Okay? Strongly support that. So we have our outline format that I've taught you how to do. And like I've told you, outlining is really important. And when you see me write the introductions and you see me write the introduction and you see me write the body paragraphs, you're going to really understand and see the benefit of outlining. You're going to see how outlining makes your whole writing process so much easier to be able to do. So much easier to do. Okay? So let's keep moving and pressing forward. Let's look at our question here. Our question says the funds for postgraduate research are limited. Therefore, some people think that financial support from the government should be provided. However, only scientific research should be funded, rather than other less useful subjects. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Right? To what extent do you agree or disagree? All right, like I said, I'm going to do it where I'm going to take a side. I'm going to pick a side strongly and go for it. I'm going to disagree. I'm going to disagree that it should only be for scientific research. And one reason I'm going to talk about is dealing with the arts. All right, and the second area that I'm going to talk about is communication. Okay, I'm going to talk about that we should have this money provided for arts and also for communication because they're not less useful than scientific research. Arts are great for promoting culture, right? Promoting culture and promoting creativity. All right, and for communication, why is communication so important? Because investing in communication can teach how to solve problems, right? And what else can communication do in terms of that? Solve problems and learn how to enhance relationships. Right? These are the reasons why I think that move it up a little bit, that we should not only get financial support for scientific research only, and we should also give it to the other subjects. I'm going to talk about my first body paragraph that arts are just as important. I'm going to talk about how communication is just as important. There is no right or wrong side. Okay? Understand that. There is no right or wrong side. If you agree, then explain why you think we should only fund science. If you disagree, then explain why we should only fund that we should fund the other subjects are just as important. They're not less useful. Okay? And like I said, some people say, well, can I talk about both sides? Right? Well, you can't talk about both sides. Okay? You have to pick a side. There has to be a side that you more strongly favor. Okay? There has to be a side you more strongly favor. All right? So if you wanted to write this essay in a way where you talk about, I partly agree, right? There still should be one of the sides that you more strongly favor, all right? Because it's not a discuss both sides question. And that's why I'm really not in favor of teaching the partly agree way of writing. Pick a side. With this kind of question, make a choice. Make a choice, pick a side, okay? So that's his question. Now, Right here we have another question, another agree or disagree question. And so I have another assignment for you. I want you to look at this question and to try to outline it yourself. And then you can send in your results of your outlining, and I'll add it to our list of outlines, and we can see all the different ideas that you can come up with when it comes to outlining for a particular question. And also, we're also going to include another document, it'll be a PDF, where you can just see a list of outlines of questions that we've done. And you can really get a good idea for idea generation and being able to come up with ideas to be able to talk about. All right, so now let's move down and let's look at another outlining example. That was our agree or disagree question. Okay, here is our opinion question. Uh-oh, we don't want to do that. Where were we? Where are we? Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. I'm opening up a new screen. Your teacher is sometimes not always good with his computer. Actually, I'm okay. Sometimes I just make little mistakes. All right, so here is an opinion question. Right now, in an opinion question, there's no right or wrong answer. You have to just be able to give your opinion and to express it very clearly and express it very well. So here's our question. In many countries, school-aged children spend their free time doing homework. Is it a good or bad thing? Give examples based on your own experience. Okay? Is it a good or a bad thing? So here is our outline format. A, B, to A, B. All right. I'm going to say it's a bad thing. All right, I'm going to talk about family. I'm going to talk about, family, why it's a bad thing. Because they're at home using all their free time doing homework. They're not working on their relationships with their family. Okay, so that's something that they have to be able to do. And instead of doing schoolwork, they could be learning values from their family in their free time. Right, they could be learning family values. Now, I know some of you might say, I don't believe that. That's silly. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you agree with my point of view or you don't agree with my point of view. I'm just talking about this is what some people can talk about. Okay, I'm trying to give you the other side of it. I mean, I think so there are a lot of good arguments for arguing why it's a good thing, but I'm talking about not. I'm talking about, there's the other side of it in terms of I'm talking about it from being something that's bad. Another reason why I think only doing homework in your free time is they're not getting a lot of value in playing. Right, and so I think that they should not only use their free time for doing homework, because there's a lot of value in playing. You can learn relationship skills, and you can learn how to enjoy life. Okay, so these are the things that I'm going to talk about in this essay. All right, it doesn't matter what ideas you come up with, as long as you're able to write the essay in a way, you're able to write the essay in a way that strongly supports your position. Okay, that strongly supports your position. That's what's important, and that's why I'm doing this one in this way. All right, because you can, as long as you're able to support your position, You have controlling ideas. You have details you're going to use to support your position. It doesn't matter how you go about doing it. Okay? It doesn't matter what the exact idea is. Okay, now let's move down to our final question, which is our problem solution question. Okay. Now, with our problem solution question, this is the type of question where we don't have to think of our controlling ideas. As you can see in the opinion question and the agree or disagree question, we had to come up with our own controlling ideas that we're going to talk about. And a lot of students struggle with that. They have problems with that. But here we have an example of a problem solution question. It says, in many cities, the population is increasing. Some say that urbanization process denies us knowing our neighbors, and this causes a loss of community sense. What is the main problem with this? What measures can be taken to overcome it? Okay. So let's take a look at it. There's our format, 1, A, B, 2, A, B. Okay, so when you send in your examples, when you send me in your examples of doing your outlines, use the same structure I'm using. Okay, all right. Don't send me some crazy structure or send me a bunch of circles with lines pointing out of it. Don't do crazy stuff. Okay, just let's all be consistent in what we're doing for the course. All right, so population is increasing. Urbanization. Urbanization means like inner cities. New York, Detroit, Chicago, Barcelona, Madrid, Casablanca, Shanghai, Tokyo. Really, urbanization. What is are denying us knowing our neighbors? What's the main problem with having a loss of community sense? So our first paragraph is going to be about the problem of no community sense, and next one is how to solve or overcome this. Right. So for this one, we don't have to think about what are the controlling ideas. We don't have to come up with the controlling ideas. They are giving the controlling ideas to us. Right? They're giving us the controlling ideas. So in the first one, when we're looking at the first one, the problem of no, what are some problems of not having a sense of community? What are some problems with not having a sense of community? All right. Somebody might argue, well, there'll be less safety because people normally care less about who they don't know. Okay. All right. And somebody might say also there'll be less growth in the community because if you don't have a community sense, you're going to be maybe less likely to support the businesses and things like that in that community. How do we solve or how do we overcome that? Some people might say we build community centers. What's another way we may solve or overcome a lack of community sense? What else can we do? We can have a community center, and we can have maybe neighborhood monthly activities, so people can maybe get to know each other and things like that. So this is my outline here. Okay, outlining allows for you to answer a question and be very specific in how you're answering a question. Outlining is so important. Okay? All right, so that'll do it in terms of our lesson on outlining. I hope you've learned a lot about how to outline a question. It's very important that you outline the question before you start writing. Okay? That's really, really valuable. That's really, really important that you learn and practice how to do that. Okay? Now we're moving into the next lecture with teaching you how to write your introductions. And we're going to be writing an introduction for each of these questions that we just learned how to outline, so that you're going to have a chance to learn how to do introductions and do them very well. Okay, so, and you'll see that when doing the introduction, we're doing the same thing for any question type. It doesn't matter. Okay? So, I'll talk to you soon.